Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Habitual Growth Podcast. I am Nathan, and this is my co host, Lisa. And this is the podcast where excuses come to die, discipline is built, and lives are changed. We're all about transformation here by taking action. So don't just listen today, actually look at how you can apply these tips, tricks, advice, recommendations to your own life, because our goal is ultimately to help you become successful and to help you make an impact on this world so it becomes a better place for all. And so, Lisa, you have been actually on some pretty big adventures with your corporate job. And I think today's topic is actually very relevant for a lot of the things that you're dealing with your own team. How you and I navigate our own personal lives as well. But we really wanted to talk about body and mind optimization. Really, what does wellness mean beyond simply fitness? People, a lot of times, I think, hear the word wellness and they immediately go to, well, I need to go run a mile or I've got to eat a little bit better. But there's so much more to wellness there. And so I want to take up the topic of just holistic wellness. Really, what does that mean beyond the fitness? And so let's talk about sleep. Let's talk about recovery, longevity, stress, mindsets. What does the word wellness mean to you since you've been on this journey now for the last 3 to 5 years?
Well, I it changes. How's that answer?
Great answer. It's a great starting point.
Yeah, I don't think there's one hard and fast definition of wellness, nor do I think it stays the same over time. I think it's an awareness to what you need to feel good.
Mhm.
And I know good is very arbitrary, but you're right. It doesn't do you any good to go to the gym, but then to get 5 hours of sleep and be highly stressed for 18 hours in your day without any downtime. Just the same as it's not any better to work 18 hours a day and have no social life and never get to the gym, right? So it's looking at all of the pieces, the physical, the mental, how you're putting what you're putting in your mind, how you're developing your mind, how you're interacting with people, assessing the relationships that you have, whether they're colleagues at work, they're friends in the community, they're with your family, and taking inventory periodically to say, what is working, what isn't, and how do I feel as an entire person, not just how does my fitness feel? How does my mental health feel in a bucket? It's looking at it from a completely holistic perspective and then making adjustments based on maybe changes that are within your control or not within your control.
Yeah. So what types of stuff are like you just got back from a big travel event. You hosted an all day, maybe a 2 day event for your team. It was kind of all hands. Let's meet together. Let's do some brainstorming. I'm sure there's a lot more behind it, but the travel piece of it is something I know that you actually like to travel, but you also have to build structure around your life as you are traveling. So like, what are you doing when you have upcoming trips and it's not going to be, hey, we're just working from home or working from us, right?
Yeah, I do a couple of things, right? Of course, there's always planning. So, when in that trip am I able to schedule in my workouts, right?
Mhm.
That it's important to me to continue to be active so that I show up every day sharp and not sluggish. I also try to actually pre-schedule downtime, and it sounds really silly, but even though I'm extroverted and I'm with people all day, I have come to realize that I get to a point during work travel where I just need some quiet time. So I will make sure that I don't have a dinner scheduled every single night, or I decline because I know I'm going to need that space, whether it's just to mentally check out and read a book or, watch something mindless on TV, or to just catch up on work so that I don't feel that anxiety creeping up with I'm getting so far behind in all these other things that I can't be fully present in the next day. And then I try and, from a nutrition standpoint, I try and plan, right? Like what kind of supplements or snacks can I bring that keep me fairly on track, but still allow flexibility to do the social things, go and have dinner. And then I also try, and I'm not great at it, but I also try what someone once coined as boondoggling. So when I'm out on a trip, and especially if I'm going to be there for a long time, schedule something that isn't work related. Go into the town and explore something. Take an hour or 2 hours and do something that doesn't feel like work and enjoy the place and meet new people in whatever city you're in. I think that's really important too, is especially during work travel, we just tend to go down this hole and it's, I have to do all of this. And we don't take a step back and say, I might have the opportunity to meet or do something that I wouldn't otherwise have. I'm going to put myself in a place to be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that's all awesome. And I want to go all the way back and circle circle back to your first answer, which is like it's always changing and always evolving. And I think that's the best answer that anybody could really have right now. Just because something made sense to you 5 years ago or 3 years ago or even 2 weeks ago doesn't mean that's the right thing for you now. Life changes, your travel, your job, your kids, your marriages, or, business situation, whatever it is, it can change. And so I like the answer of like, hey, this holistic wellness to me really evolves around how do I take better care of myself in this moment. And I like that because it almost feeds into like the growth mindset aspect of things. And we'll talk about that maybe at a later podcast. But when you have a growth mindset, it's all about taking accountability. And I like how you've kind of stacked in my travels. Hey, I'm going to plan. Hey, I'm going to go see some things in the city. So I know you like to travel. I know you like to sightsee too, but it's also, hey, I'm going to take a little reprieve from just business for, 48, 72 hours, go hard and then be exhausted, right? It's like, it's building breaks that you mentioned. It's, hey, I'm going to eat a little bit healthier. I'm not going to get the breakfast where it's like just donuts and coffee until noon, right? And then we're going to eat a big, unhealthy burger. And I just think if you pre-plan, if you think through, there's so much in that. How do you tackle sleep though? Because I know a lot of times people don't sleep that well in hotel rooms. I'm one of those people, right? It feels a little bit weird to be out of your bed. I know you're also in the gyms working out every single day. How do you navigate those pieces in addition to everything work related and the sightseeing aspects?
Yeah, sleep is hard. I mean, I don't sleep well in hotel rooms in general either. What I found is if I can do the best to keep my routine the same, so as long as you're not flipping massively time zone differences, can I stay within a window that's reasonable of when I'm going to go to bed and when I'm going to get up? So it's not that hard shift in my body. And then I try and mimic actually my bedroom time routine at home. So, at home, I wash my face and then I do this and then I get in bed and I read my book or whatever it is. I try to keep some of those elements the same to help my body relax the way it normally would. You're not going to sleep the same in a hotel room, and then I also try and keep wake up times the same too. Maybe I get up a little bit earlier because, I'm on East Coast time and I still have to get to the gym, but it's largely the same as what my routine is at home. And I prioritize sleep. So, I love having dinner with people. Maybe you hang out at the hotel after dinner for a little bit, but I know there's a certain point when I go, hey, I'm out. I got to go to bed because I am keeping with that routine and making sure that I'm getting enough sleep because on the back end coming out of a lot of trips, I found if I don't do that, that's when I get sick. That's when, it takes me days to catch up at home and I actually lose productivity and a sense of holistic wellness because I've compromised on something that is really important to maintaining my overall health and wellness
Hmm.
versus holding my ground and saying, hey, I want to hang out a little bit longer, maybe one more hour, but I know for me, this is the time that I go up and people
Yeah.
usually will respect that and actually will follow suit.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that last piece. Let's peel that layer back a little bit more, and I want to take us out of just travel because not everybody work. Travel tends to be a small piece of somebody's job or even life overall in the grand scheme of things. So even what you just mentioned though of like keeping routines, planning ahead, blocking your time, all of that stuff is obviously really important. And so, I want people to understand it doesn't have to be just travel. Like saying no, protecting your schedule, protecting your routine is extremely important. And a lot of that belongs in the growth mindset, which I mentioned, right? We'll tackle maybe later this week in another podcast episode. But that growth mindset of like, where can I be better? Where can I get a little bit more I think travel obviously exacerbates everything, but just stress in general of everything that most people are juggling, right? Like I'm up and I've got three little kids. Today, my 3-year-old was, up at, I don't know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. And she's in bed poking me in the face. We've got a day full of content generation, interviews, and all this stuff. And it's like, that's just a natural part of the day. I can't get away from that. But at the same time, how could I be a little bit better? One of those things that I really like to do is stress management. And I actually shot a little LinkedIn video on this yesterday, but one of the things that I really try to do is step back before a meeting, before just going in hot. It's like, Okay, let's take some breaths. Let's pull up the documentation I'm going to need for the meeting. What am I trying to get out of this? What type of environment are we going to see? What questions can I be asking? And so, even if it's small, 5 minutes, take a walk around the block, get some sunshine, go sit outside, step away from a screen. That stuff for stress management helps really clear the mind. I think it helps reduce, obviously, stress. You're thinking a little bit more clearly. You're in a better emotional state. But then at the same time, you are not feeling rushed. And that to me is a big part of the transition for development. It's a big part of evolution in terms of growth mindset. And so, what types of things do you do to maybe minimize stress? Racing through airports and getting on airplanes, all that, prepping for the meeting while you're on the plane. Like a lot of that stuff is difficult, but you also take long road trips going, up to your
For sure.
cabin and things like that. So how are you managing your stress?
I'd say again, it depends. It depends on the type of stress. I try to be, I would say I manage my stress through behavioral awareness. So I will start to develop habits that indicate to me that my stress level is rising and I'm coping with it by creating maybe a potentially unhealthy or unwanted habit. So, for example, in a busy season, I might sleep a little bit less or feel a little bit more stressed running from meeting to meeting to meeting. And then I start having one more cup of coffee, and then I might have an energy drink. And, and I start to watch some of the small behavioral changes that I make to go, all right, time out. I've got to figure out how to reverse engineer more of a manageable stress level because I'm starting to pick up habits that really won't serve me in the long run, right? They're there to just band-aid. And on a single day or a day or two basis, it's not a big deal. But I think the behavioral awareness of where am I starting to shift my habits, behaviors, coping mechanisms into something that I don't really want versus what can I do to manage the stress? Like you said, take a breath. I will schedule at least a half an hour break somewhere in my day with
Mhm.
no meetings because I tend to sit in 30-minute meetings almost all day, every day. And I need that half hour of clarity, whether it's catch up on email, it's to go, just step outside for a minute, grab a meal, so I'm not eating at my desk. So that's kind of where I do try to assess. And then also, maybe I can't manage stress very effectively during the week because it's the nature of the season that I'm in. Then I
Yeah.
make sure that I do things that will fill me up and de-stress me more on the weekends, right? So I'll put more emphasis in spending time outside or just sitting and talking with people that I care about, whatever it is that helps you de-stress or feel like you're reconnecting with who you are, from a holistic wellness. There may be times where you need to just do more of that on a weekend to be able to counteract whatever stress that has been occurring during the week.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you went there. That's where I was hoping you were going to go. Talk a lot about self-awareness. We talk a lot about, it's okay to slip, right? I think that's the other thing, the hustle culture of every day's got to be perfect and you got to be moving and all this stuff. And that
Yeah.
works for a very short amount of time. But I think that's where a lot of people, especially young people, 20s and 30s, really get caught up is, hey, I've got to do all these things and it's got to get done now. And you've heard me say this before, but this is one of my favorite quotes from Ed Milet, which is like, pressure, stress is self-inflicted, right? It's like, I did this last night. I had another like 4 or 5 emails that I felt like I had to get. I had to respond to people, and I just had to realize, like, hey, I'm tired. Like I'm burned out. I had 12 hours of meetings. Like I just need to go read a book, or like even just put on the TV and just relax for a little bit and go to bed a little bit earlier. And so that self awareness that you were talking about is really important because 10 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. I would have just burned the midnight
Right.
oil. I would have gone all night. I would have been tired the next day. I wouldn't have been as sharp. My nutrition would have fallen off. And so just the fact that you're aware of that, when you start to realize, hey, I've got these open loops that are actually forcing me to feel more stress. Like, hey, let's take working out. I didn't work out. I worked out yesterday, but I didn't work out on Tuesday, right? And all
Yeah.
day yesterday, I was like, I got to get my workout in. Today, I'm not going to have time to actually work out unless it's like 9 p.m. So in my mind already, I'm like, you got to work out. You got to work out. Got a cold plunge. I haven't done that. I got to get in the cold plunge. And so I have these constant open loops. And so I know a lot of people have that as well, where it's like you feel like you have all these things that you want to do. And if you leave these loops open sometimes, that causes more stress
Yes.
subconsciously than you even probably realize. So the more loops that you can close, the more time you can give yourself to break and breathe, set up a meal, maybe get to bed a little bit early, you're going to function holistically at a much better level. And that to me is where wellness really comes in. It's that morphing, it's that adaptability that we have of really understanding from a self awareness perspective, where am I missing? Where's that gap? How do I close this? How do I feel less stressed? Because you can control things like stress through attitude, through growth mindset, through accountability, through, hey, I fell off yesterday, but I'm okay with it. I've got a little bit of grace. Now I'm going to get back on track and I'm going to, move in the right direction. And once you start to do things like that, once you start to operate and pull yourself back on track, you actually feel way better. You have a better attitude, you have a better perspective, you have more mental clarity. And that to me is some of the biggest pieces for overall holistic wellness, not just the fitness or the nutritional aspect that we talked about.
Yeah, I want to talk about the loops that you were referencing because a lot of people, I agree, have that these open loops of, shoulds that we have, even if they're things that make us healthier or have holistic wellness, they become shoulds in our mind, but we look at them as black and white. So either I worked out today or I didn't. And what's helpful, especially in periods of high stress or periods where you've got, excess on your plate, is asking yourself, what would it take to close that loop? So, do I have time for a workout today? No, I'm not able to get to the gym because I can't dedicate, an hour away. I've got whatever it is that's happening. But can I get 15 minutes in? Can I do 30 push ups, 20 sit ups, and take a lap around the block so that I close that loop in my mind? Because then you open up mind share for other things and you've still done something that's healthy and moving you forward holistically. So, taking a look at where you're saying these should loops and then asking yourself, if I can't do it exactly the way I want to be able to do it today, what
Mhm.
can I do that will actually make me feel like I've closed that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. And let's leave that there because we're teasing out some other topics that I want to spend some time. I don't just want to gloss over them. So, hopefully that helped everybody as whether you're traveling, whether you're heading into the holidays, like most of us are, think about your mind body optimization. Be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of what's working for you. Are you tired? Are you overly stressed? Are you feeling a little bit more sad or more happy than normal? Because you can have the extremes on both sides. And so, pay attention to that. Really try to dial yourself in, listen to your body, listen to your mind, find what works for you, and then stick with that. It doesn't mean you have to stick with it forever, but if it's working for you, don't go and break something that's actually working because you may find then you can just stack on things that actually help you get a little bit better along the way as well. So hopefully that helped. Drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And Lisa, we will see you probably later this week.
That sounds awesome. Good to see
All
you,
right,
Nate.
later.